Hi guys, so in this part of the iPad series we're going to talk about TouchOSC, which is a fantastic app that allows you to control most DAWs. All over Wi-Fi, all with multi-touch, and let's have a look. So TouchOSC is an app that revolves around the OSC format, which, if you've not heard of OSC as an audio production kind of person, keep an eye out because it's going to replace MIDI. MIDI is a 30-something-year-old format. MIDI is supposed to only go over cables. In MIDI cables, it's now more common to see it in USB. And 960 times a second it can send one message, whether it's volume up, whether it's a note on, whether it's a note off, whether it's anything. That's all it can send is one message, and it's just a number. Now OSC it can send a text string over Wi-Fi, over Ethernet, over USB, over anything, and it can send millions a second as any modern networking protocol, which means there's no lag, there's no slowdown, which means you can send tons of stuff like VU meters moving or volumes, or you can send things like kind of what time you're at on a timeline accurately within a millisecond, which you just can't do over MIDI really without clogging up the MIDI system. So a lot of DAWs are starting to get on board with this. The ones that I know for sure are Reaper and Logic. And the way to set this up, there is a little more setup involved than something like Duet Display, which we were talking about, but there are benefits to this. So the first thing you have to do is buy the TouchOSC app from the App Store or for the Android store. It's available for Android as well. Then open up TouchOSC and it comes up with the setup. Now for Reaper, you have to go into the options and preferences and find the control surfaces setup. As you would with any other control surface, you've got to do something similar in most DAWs, whether it's Cubase, Pro Tools. If you have a new custom interface, that's what you've got to do. So you make yourself a new control surface setup in Reaper, probably the same in Logic, and tell it it's an OSC device. Now, the fact that it's so flexible OSC means that you have to make sure that what OSC is saying and what Reaper is hearing match. Because you can send things like /volume, /track1, /VU meter, or you can name it any way you want. And I found this because I programmed an OSC control myself for the big, bulky, old Yamaha digital desk that I've got in the studio, which is an absolute cow and only did MIDI, so I had to use a converter, but that's a story for another day. So what you have to do is add an OSC device here and then the OSC setup in TouchOSC. If I open up the TouchOSC setup, the first thing to do, just to rewind a step, is make sure that these two devices are on the same network. Now if you're at home, that shouldn't be a problem because they should be connected to the same Wi-Fi. If one device is connected by an Ethernet cable, that's fine, that makes no difference at all. In fact, arguably that's better because that means there's less chance of any interference or dropouts. So we want to set them both to send and receive. So the outgoing and incoming ports usually default are 8000 and 9000, they should match. Or at least they're the opposites of each other, so one's sending on 9000, one's receiving on 9000, and the other one's sending on 8000, and the other one receives on 8000, so that they can hear each other as a two-way communication stream. Now the IP addresses are the really important bit. Now if you look at TouchOSC, one of these IP addresses is greyed out. Now that's the IP address of this iPad. You can't change that, so that's great, because that means we can just take that number, put that number in the send box in Reaper, and there's a grayed out one in Reaper which is the IP address of that laptop. So we take that and we write that in here on the iPad. So the IP addresses then can see each other, they can talk to each other. The very last thing is the pattern configuration in Reaper. I've set this to a preset that's called Logic Pad. No surprises for finding out that that's designed to be used with Logic and an iPad, Logic Pad. So then you hit OK in TouchOSC, you hit OK in the Reaper configuration, and then, boom! The Logic Pad configuration has 8 faders here, a master fader, play, stop, record, mute for every channel, solo for every channel. The names of the channels come up at the top, and as you change banks they change so that you can see exactly not just what track number it is, which I find to be entirely useless, but you can find the exact name of how you've named that channel so that you know, okay, I'm turning up this guitar on this microphone on this channel without having to go back to the machine and look. Now this is now on Wi-Fi, it's not connected via USB like it was with Duet Display, which means, especially in a studio environment, I can now go and sit on the sofa with this, and in a different listening position, if I find that something's not right, I can just go through and just turn it up and down and change it. Start and stop. Now there are different banks here, there's a whole mixer window, so you can send for each channel. You can decide how much aux send, how much of each separate send and pan there is. There's a channel strip, which in Logic means that you can change the effects on every channel. There's an equalizer set for every channel. And there's even a whole software instrument set parameters, so in Logic, say you're using a piano or something, all the preset values come up here and can all be changed on this nice big screen. Now, you can change pages, change banks, there are any track you've got in this project that I've got up here has over 100 tracks. There is no limit. This can keep going and going. I've not found any limitations at all. I mean, there's even a scrub forward and scrub backward set of buttons. You can turn the click on and off. And this is just one of many setups in TouchOSC. If I change the layout to, say, the DJ setup, I could use something like track 2 with this on a touch screen. I'm not personally a DJ, I'm not very good with that at all. Live control iPad, I can control anything in Ableton Live from this. You have to set up Ableton Live to receive the OSC, but again, it's as quick as I just showed you in the video. It really is that quick. Oh, if you got visualization, if you got lighting rigs set up, you can control them via OSC now and just change anything, bang, 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 on the go. So the Logic Pad one is the one I was on. So if I just move the banks, that pulls up all the data. Now, the other time that I've used this, apart from just say, hey, I'll just sit on the sofa, big whoop, my live room and control room are completely separate. What if there's just me in the building? What I can do now is I can set up the drums or whatever instrument that I have to be in the live room for. Usually with guitars, the heads are in the control room with me anyway, but if I was to play drums, I can now set all the levels, hit record, go into the live room with the iPad, sit down at the drums, be comfortable, and then hit record. And then I can stop and I can cycle through the track if I need to, drop in more parts without having to keep running around. And that is invaluable for a drummer that has to record in a separate room to where the whole recording setup is. Via the magic of Wi-Fi, this communicates in real time, and say the click isn't loud enough, I can move to the click track because I always have it on a separate track rather than just the magic click button down here. If it's too loud or too quiet, I can move it, which again for drummers is absolutely invaluable. I can say that the snare mic is too loud in my ears without having to shout to any engineer. I can just go down, done. And that again will save me hours of time. There have been quite a few times where I've had an acoustic artist come in and they're not a techie guy at all, so I'm running the show in terms of the session instruments and the tech side of things, and this has saved me so much time. that you can get so much more done in a session, that you go from being a guy who the artist comes to the guy. And when you earn someone's trust like that and become the guy, that's how you build up a studio, that's how you build a reputation. And word of mouth through reputation, through things like this, can take you from being just a guy in a bedroom to running your own studio successfully. Okay, so the next one of these videos that I'm going to do is going to be when we get deeper into the rabbit hole with DAW. So the first one we're going to look at is GarageBand, which you shouldn't discount, because although GarageBand on the Mac is it's a bit of a toy, on the iPad, because it's battery powered and because it's touch screen, and because you can just keep your iPad in your bag when you're on tour or just, you know, waiting for a bus, it can be absolutely invaluable as a writing tool. So more about that soon. If you want to see more of these videos, please like or subscribe, leave a comment below, and if there's anything you'd like me to change, just say. I'm more than open to feedback. Thanks for watching. I'm Adam Steele for the Hot Pole and Banter Media.